This video is sponsored by roadiepolis.com.
Hello, I am Ignace Aleya from toleratedcinematics.com, and today I will be teaching you how to flash runs like in the series, just like in this preview. Okay, so it looks pretty awesome, right? And we're going to create this in Adobe After Effects, but for this effect we will need one external plugin called Trapcode Particular. So if you don't have that plugin, you won't be able to follow along with this tutorial, unfortunately, so make sure you have that plugin and then we can get started. So I'm going to be using this video file here, so it's some stock footage and the link will be in the description so you can use it along with the tutorial, and then just drag and drop it into a new composition. This will copy all the composition settings so we can start right away and we don't have to worry about the composition settings. So the first thing we want to do is right click, create a new camera. This is for 3D purposes and we can see it's a wider screen, so we are going to be using like a 28mm camera, and click OK. So I'm just guessing it's not alright because I don't know which lens they used for this camera, and I'm not going to start tracking it. I'm just guessing 28 will be good enough for this tutorial. So I'm going to right click again, create a new solid right away, or start making with a light. So we're going to create a new light and call this light emitter, and make sure you call this light emitter because it's essential for the plugin to recognize this light as a type where the particle should emit from. So create a point light, which is okay, and click OK. Then I'm going to make it a little bit larger and the timeline so we can see second per second. We're going to move ahead like a few frames here and press P on the keyboard, click a new keyframe here for the light and click over here on the Z position and make him like 20,000 away into space here. And 20,000 means he's going away from the camera, and negative is going to be past the camera. So we're going to position him right over here in the corner. So use the X position and the Y position to position him at the right spot right here. Okay, so the next thing is to move ahead 1 second to 1 second or so and hit 0 on the Z axis, scroll out a little bit to find where the light is right over here, and then with the Z positioning try to move him along the left side of our camera, make him move a little bit up maybe. And the other thing you can do is click away, click on the position text here, and you will be able to see some anchor points here. So you have to search for them, but you will be able to drag like so and make like nice curves. And there we go. And now if we preview this, we are going to see the light passes this camera as this car as well. So we're going to move it a little bit more into time here so it doesn't pass that car as fast, and we're going to make sure he is going behind this car and like skips in front of this car. So we're going to click on the position and use this curve to get him behind this car. So he moves behind that car, create a new keyframe, move ahead like 3 frames using page down on the keyboard, 3 frames, and then move him a little bit more to the right. So he's like dodging this car from the speed, so and he passes the camera. So once we have done that, we can get started with a new composition, and here we are going to design the particle for our product, so for our flash actually. And we're going to use rename this to particle, change the width and height to 500, and the time doesn't matter at all. So click OK, and then we're going to create a new solid. Choose a white color for the solid, make it comp size, click OK, and we're going to duplicate it a few times and then deselect all of them and click on one solid and toggle it on and make like a little head here. So we are going to try and design a little human that is running like the Flash, and we're also going to keep everything that we're using. So we just create a head for this solid, we move ahead to this solid and we keep it toggled off and try to make like a simple body here and toggle it on. Once you're done, go one above and start designing like a hand here. doesn't have to be perfect. Toggle it on, go to the next one, and toggle it off. I'm sorry, and make another arm here. I keep doing this by accident, but it doesn't really matter. Just make sure he's like running. And actually you can design anything you want to, so it doesn't have to be like I'm doing this perfectly, like I'm actually designing a man, but you don't have to do that. You can also like design a few circles, and it's just up to you. Try to experiment with all kinds of different options, like just use simple dots here, and then the other thing you should do is change the opacity of everything to like 75, and then play around with the randomness of everything. So we have changed everything to 75, make the first one maybe 50, the third one 25. Well, I still selected all of them, so I'm going to deselect all of them, change this to 25, maybe 25, 35, 40, and just keep a few intents. So I'm going to keep this like 65 or so. And just so you can see a bit of variation in our particle. And then the next thing is to close this down, or you can keep it open, go back to your composition and drop the particle composition on the bottom and deselect the eye here. So we don't have to see it, it just has to be in the composition to be recognized by the particles particular effect. So right click over here, go to new and add a new solid. I'm going to make this comp size again and use this as flash particles. Hit enter on the keyboard, go to effect, and then we're going to select trapcode particular, and we're going to emitter, change this to like 200, particles, go to lights, and immediately he's going to attach it to the light. So if we pass with the lights, I'm going to solo the particles first. You can see it's attached to the light, so as the light passes by, the particles are going to follow the light, which is great, and this is what we want actually. So the velocity we can change everything to 0, and the sizes as well. Then go to particle right over here and change the life to 1 second and particle type to sprite colorize. Go to texture and change the layer to the particle that we just made, that we just designed. Click OK and use the current time, it doesn't matter. The size we can change it to like 250. We'll see at the end if we are going to keep this. Let's just preview it here. Change it to 500 maybe. We don't see any particles. Why is this? I'm not really sure. Maybe we should change the current time here. And change the time sample here to start at birth and a loop. And then we can change the size to 500, and we can see we have our man here. We didn't change the emitter type to light, so we should change it back. Okay, so immediately you can see our particle is following the light, and it's a little bit too small, so we're going to change the size to 750, which looks alright. And also the particles per second to 400 for now, just so we can see a little bit for reference. And then we're going to change the opacity to 10 and the variation to 35 maybe, and change the color here to an orange color, a darker orange color, so something like this. Click OK and change the transfer mode to screen. Then we can go to physics, go to air. And right over here we are going to use a turbulence field. So we are going to change this to like, let's say 500. Just for an example, I'm going to use 1500 so you can see what's happening. Everything gets jacked up. And to change that, we can go to the turbulence here and go to scale. Right now it's set at 10, so it's a lot higher. And if we are going to change it to 1.5, it's going to be a lot more subtle. So if we change it to 1 even, we'll see it's not going to jack everything, but it's going to be over time. So we're going to change the position to 500 again. We can see it's just some curvature in our design, which looks great. So nothing is perfect, and we get some turbulence like so, which is awesome.
If you're looking to enhance your video, you should check out rodypolis.com. It's a great website for visual effects artists, motion graphics artists, and filmmakers in general. I use it myself, and if you buy something from their website, you can use the code TOLERATED and you will get 10% off. So be sure to check out their website. They have lens flares, inked effects packs, also 3D models and stuff like that. So be sure to check out our website, and let's go to the tutorial again.
Okay, so right over here we should make sure that our particles are like going away, disappearing with the opacity. So we're going to scroll back up to the particle tab here and change the opacity over live. If we make this wider and make it ramp off, and by clicking on this icon, and then it's going to get smaller over time. Okay, so you can also draw something like yourself if you want to make him look a lot longer, and then let's take off. So something like that might be a little bit better. Okay, so we have our flash here designed already. So I think this is okay, and I'm going to unsolo this and see it on my footage right here. Okay, so we should make sure that the solid is above our footage right here, and let's see. It looks alright. Maybe even make it a lot larger, so maybe 1000, and change the transfer mode to screen as well, or maybe even add. I'm not sure. Add looks alright, and I'm going to increase the particles per second to 1500 maybe, and try screen again. Okay, I do prefer screen, so I'm going to keep it at screen and then see how he moves out in time. So right over here the light is a little bit too high, so I'm going to get to the start and drop the light down like so, and then change the curvature a little bit. And he passes the camera. Okay, looks great. I'm going to preview this. And one thing you can do is maybe get back in here. I don't like his left arm, so I'm going to make it a lot closer to his body. And these are just some examples about what you can do. You can just edit it and immediately it will be changed here. So we have our flash here, and we can increase the opacities right over here at the particle tab and change the opacity to like 15 and try different things. Just experiment. Well, 40. And yeah, it's up to you to try different things and get better results, and I would love to see them actually. So if you have different results, send them to me and I would love to see what you came up with. So another thing you can do is once you have your particle ready, you can add a CC vector blur by going to your effects and presets, enter CC vector blur and drag it and drop it onto the solid here and get it to like 15 or so, or like 10, and you will see in the it's going to be very subtle, but you can see it defines like the edges a little bit better in my opinion. So I kind of like it, so I'm going to keep it like this. Another thing you can do is go to effects, stylize, and add a glow, and increase the radius to 250 and maybe the intensity to 0.5, and change the colors to A and B colors, and change the colors to like some yellowish kind of orange colors like so. And if we toggle this off and on, we can see we have some more glow, maybe intensity a little bit more. So I don't see a lot happening, so I'm going to change it back to 100. Maybe also change the threshold here. So if we get this smaller, we can see we have more threshold, okay, less threshold. So I'm going to make it 10, increase the radius like so, and decrease the intensity to 0.5 maybe. Okay, so this looks a little bit better. So we get some like fake reflections on the floor, and now it's up to you to create real reflections, but that's not going to be for this tutorial. So the next thing to do is just create a new solid again, rename this to smoke, and hit enter on the keyboard, go to effect and do the same thing. Go to trap code, particular, go to emitter and change it to a light. And now it's actually a lot simpler. We're going to change it to 600 particles per second, change velocity also to 000, and maybe change right over here everything 0. And there we go. Particle, we're going to change this to a cloudlet, and life is going to be 1. The feathering is going to be 25, and the size is going to be 400. and immediately you can see your clouds, which are way too big right now, or way too intense. But by changing the opacity to like 2 and the opacity random to 10, we're going to get some better results. And also change the color to a more dusty color, so something like this here, so some dust that is on the streets, and change it to a screen as well here, and change it as a screen over here, and then drop it behind the particles. And even the opacity is way too much. I'm going to change it to like 1, and we can see it's a lot too intense, so maybe 0.5, or just decrease the amount of particles right here to like 400, and now we're getting some better results. I'm also going to change the size here a little bit by going to 50, 50, and 50, and solo it just to see the example on its own. 150 would be better. And there we go. And we're going to drop and drag down, go to physics again, air, and go to turbulence field, and change the position to like 500. And let's see if this is doing anything. Okay, so maybe even 1000. Okay, there we go. And also at the wind, we're going to enter a negative value of -500, so the wind is under the air as well. And this is going to make sure that the dust is going up in the air, so like in real life, when you pass dust, it's going to float in the air, so looks a lot better. And also at the particle tab again, go to opacity over life and change the ramp down like so. So now it's going to fade out a little bit better. If you think the feathering is a little bit too low, we can change it to like 35, and it looks a lot better again. And again, like I said, it's playing around and seeing what works and what doesn't. So now we have some smoke, we have our particles of the flash, and that's actually everything you should do to accomplish this effect, apart from one other thing. And we're going to, once he passes by, it's a little bit too slow, so we can speed that up at the end, no problem at all. But once he passes by, I want to see some electrics over here. So I'm also going to do this very, very quickly, just so we can get this tutorial to not take too long. But we are going to rename this to electric particles. And we're going to see, we're going to toggle it off and see where he passes the camera. So right around here he passes the camera actually, so toggle it back on, go to Effect, Trapcode Particular, and now it's a little bit, it's also pretty simple actually. We're going to emitter, and we're just also going to use the light, and we're going to keyframe the particles per second for now. So we're going to click on here, change it to like 1000, go back 1 frame, so you can click on here or page up on the keyboard, change it to 0. So now it's 0, and then when you press U on the keyboard, you can see the keyframes by the way. So if we zoom in, you can see 0, 1 keyframe ahead, 1000, and then like 10 keyframes ahead. By holding Shift and pressing page down, you will advance 10 keyframes, and then you can change it back to 0. So it's going to make a little burst of particles right over here, which is great. So once we have done that, we're going to change the velocity here to 2000 or so, and change everything else to 0. And here we can keep this at like 500, and go to particle and change it to like maybe change it to 10. The life will change it to 0.2, and I'm going to solo this just so we can see it. We should see appearing it right over here, but right now we don't, and the reason why, I'm just going to show it once. Well, the reason why is with the physicals here. So we are going to change the color first at orange, so we can continue chromatically, and then we can play with the wind. So we are going to go to physics here, and go to air, and play with the wind here. So for X, I'm going to say like 650, and for the Y, I'm going to say -300. And let's see if we get something. So we're getting something here, but maybe we should advance this like a few keyframes to see if it's working. Okay, so this looks alright, but the size is way too much. So I'm going, oh, it's 100. It should be 10. So very smoothly it should pop up like so. Then we're going to turbulence and change the turbulence to 250 maybe. Change the scale to 6, complexity to 4. And that's all by experimenting. I'm just giving you the values, but again, it's just testing everything out. The octave multiplier to 5, and all the rest is okay. So we're going to use this as reference for our streaks, and I want to make them live a little bit longer, so I'm going back here at life, and I'm going to add 0.4. So let's see. Okay, so this looks alright. And I'm also going to size over life and drop it down like so. Okay, and now we can increase it to 0.5 maybe, the life. Okay, so now we can go ahead and get into the aux system and press it to continuously. What that's going to do, it's going to follow each individual particle with other particles that are going to do the exact same trajectory. So if we increase the particles per second to like 1,000, you will see these streaks right over here. So they're following along. And now we can see the life is way too much for the streaks that are following. So maybe 0.2 should be alright. And now we can also see that the life for the regular particles is way too much. So I'm going back here to 0.2. Okay, so this is alright for now. And the size here, we're going to keep this at, let's try different things, maybe 10, and size over life, ramp it down. Okay. And the opacity we can keep it at, or maybe change it to 10, and the color from main to 100. Now it's going to be orange, which looks a little bit better. Then the next thing is going to the physics here for the aux system. So it has a different physics. We're going to change the turbulence to 200 or 250. And if we are going to do something with the turbulence here, it's affected by all the settings in the turbulence field right over here. So here we are going to change the values, well, they're actually set alright, so the values are already good enough, but by changing these, this is going to affect. So that's something to keep in mind when you're playing around, that the one is going to affect the other. So pretty simple and straightforward. But let's preview this for now. So if you press B, it's going to make a start comp here, and N is going to end it. And now we can preview just this entire area by pressing 0 on the keyboard or pressing play over here. And we can see this is our burst of like lightning. And it's actually disappearing quite fast. So I'm going to make it last a little bit longer again, 0.3 maybe, and also change the life from the aux system to 0.3, and now we'll get something like this. Looks alright. So this is pretty cool, and if we're going to de-solo it, we're going to see it once it passes through here. We are going to see some lightning here, but they're way too small, so I'm going to change the size here to all of this one. I'm going to change the size to 50 and change the size here to 20. And now we have some lightning. We can also start with a size here that is smaller and gets larger, smaller and larger, like so. So you can really draw in here, which is cool. And actually I'm going to keep this size at 0 and just play around with the size of the aux system itself. So I'm going to increase it to 30, and we'll see the differences here. And now if we change the transfer mode to add or screen is a little bit more realistic. You can see our lightning a little bit at the end of our comp here. So we can play around, do whatever we want to, and it's just playing around, testing things. And one thing I would like to do is once it passes as well, like so right over here, I want a flare to like add some extra touch to our flash that is passing through. So we're going to add a new solid here and change the color to orange. Click OK and OK. And we're going to click on the ellipse tool and drag a circle over here. Press F on the keyboard to feather it and increase the feathering like so. And if we are going to click on the orange and press it's going to bring up different values here, like the mask expansion. If we're going to enable this one here, like -100, it's going to shrink down a little bit and it's going to be a little bit smoother. We're also going to change the mode to maybe add, and for this example it might look alright, so I'm going to change the color to an even more red color so it doesn't look like yellowish. I don't really like the yellow color, but this, like for example, looks awesome in my opinion. So I'm going to press T on the keyboard for the opacity, create a new stopwatch for right here, and advance one keyframe back into time. Well, get back one frame in time and change it to 0 so it passes, increases it with 100, and then advance 10 frames with shift and page down and change the opacity to 0. So if we're going to preview this, it looks a little bit better even. And now it's just finalizing it by going to new, go adjustment layer, and go to effect, color correction, curves, and yeah, now you can just play around with the curves and change the colors overall. So that's completely up to you. Maybe increase the blues here and the shadows, like so. And then go to green channel, and that's just playing around. So I'm doing this pretty fast, I know, and if you're a starter you're probably not going to be able to follow along, but I would suggest you to just pause the video sometimes. And yeah, it's going to take way too long if I'm going to talk it through a lot slower, so I just have to explain it this fast. But everything is in the video, so if you didn't see something, just go back to that time, pause the video and experiment. Like when I give you a value, pause the video and experiment with different values for that exact same effect, and you will be able to see the differences. I can tell you the differences, but you won't be able to understand them as long as you don't do them yourself. It's like when you do something and someone is telling you that you're going to make a big mistake, but you do it anyway. Well, then you will discover that it was a mistake, but you have to discover it yourself that it was a mistake. Because you're not going to listen to anyone else telling you what to do. So it's kind of like that. So another thing you can do is once you have everything done here, we can select everything here from the particles. So well, not this one, just the particles, the emitter, the camera, and the other two particles, and go to layer and pre-compose these. Move all attributes, yes, and then duplicate this layer. You can change it to screen, and then duplicate one of these layers and make this like a reflection on the floor. So make it like so, position it over here, just doing it pretty fast, but this way you can get some reflections in the floor. And put this on the bottom here, screen, and decrease the value like 25 or 50, and go to effect, blur and sharpen, fast blur, 25, and now we get some reflections like so. We can also do the same thing, like duplicate this original one again and position it. Oh, that's not the original one. The top one is the original one. Duplicate that one and put it like over here at the bus, and we're going to mask it out like so. And now we have some reflections in the windows of the bus. So change the feather to like 10 or 25, change the opacity to 25, and now when it's passing by you will see the reflections in the bus, and this really adds up a little bit in the realism, so that's pretty cool. You're going to see the reflections, and this adds really to the realism of this effect. So I would definitely suggest you to try things out yourself, and I said it like a million times in this video. I'm sorry if it bothers you, but it's true. It's just the way how things work. So, and this was my tutorial for today. If you liked and enjoyed this tutorial, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And for some people, I would have been too slow, and I'm sorry for that, but just pause the video and try it out and keep doing it until you succeed in this effect. So thank you for watching, and goodbye. Take care.